Hi everyone, you are listening to the Property Management Show. My name is Marie.
My name is Brittany.
And our guest today is Stephanie Gordon. If you don't know her yet, you should. So Stephanie Gordon was the founder of Gordon Property Management. She has been a successful business owner and a thought leader in property management. In July of 2018, she actually sold part of her company to a trusted team member. And today we're going to talk about how she came to that decision and sort of, how it looks like under the hood. Yeah. So, Stephanie, welcome.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah. We're so excited to have you.
This will be fun.
Yeah. So, how about we start with you talking about the deal you have with Meghan?
Okay. So, as of July of last year, I sold Meghan 49% of Gordon Property Management. 49% of the shares of Gordon Property Management were a subchapter S corporation. So, I had thought about, in property management, our exit strategy is you sell your business, or you have a family member that takes over your business. And for quite some time, I had told Meghan that I would sell her my business. If my kids didn't want to get involved, I would sell her the business when I was ready. And that was actually, in hindsight, a good thing to do because it really kind of kept her around for a while. At one point she was talking about going back to school and getting an MBA, and I said, why would you want to do that? She's married, she's got 2 kids, she's working full time. It's expensive. I said, you do not need an MBA in this business. You just need to be smart, and she's plenty smart enough. And I said to her, I said, at some point I'll sell you the business. And I think she kind of went, oh, okay.
That sounds nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we just, she's worked for me for a long time, and we work really, really well together, and she's smart and she's capable. And, the last so many years, she's really been running the day-to-day operations. So anyway, at some point, a couple of years ago, I was kind of getting burned out. And, the last number of years, Gordon Property Management has grown a lot. Really, thanks to 4.5 and all of the blogging that we've been doing, and it took a while for that to kick in. But once that phone started ringing, and I was just adding new properties all the time, and get the business as big as you can because you sell it based on your revenue. So that's kind of what I was doing, and I was really getting burned out. And the phone would ring, and I would be talking to somebody, and they'd have a little condo somewhere, and I'm thinking, I don't care about your condo. And it's like, oh, wait, bad attitude. This is we should not be, a time for me to not be doing, because I was the one who met with all the new clients and whatnot. It's like, I really need to stop doing that if I don't care.
Yeah.
So,
because that's one of the things that property owners look for when they are talking to companies. It's like, are they going to care for my property the way that I do?
Right. And I've always cared. I cared a lot about my customers and my properties. But I didn't care about adding new ones.
Yeah.
It was just burned out. I've been doing this 32 years. That's a long time.
So you knew it felt different.
Yeah. And so, one weekend I sat down, with all my financial information, and if I sold the company, what would its value be, and, what investment income do we have coming in, and, what are the outstanding mortgages and taxes and insurance on properties that we own, and where would we be? And it was like, well, I could squeeze out a retirement, but I would, I've enjoying a pretty nice lifestyle here thanks to all the growth that I've had, and I didn't want to give it up. I love to travel, and so I just put my head down and said, okay, well, we're just going to keep on working. And it was actually good that I did that because it kind of brought me back around to get out of my little funk, and it's like, well, we're going to keep on working. So as you know, I have a second home in Sonoma, which is, it's just beautiful. I walk out my house and there's trees and vineyards and rolling hills. And usually when I'm up there every morning, I go for a walk. It's a long walk. I don't listen to music. I don't listen to podcasts. I just am there. And I'm walking down Carragher Road, and all of a sudden I had this aha moment. It's like, I don't have to sell her the whole thing. I'll sell her half. And it was like such a simple solution, because with half of the income from Gordon Property Management, I could
Yes.
retire. I could
No squeezing.
I could totally
Yeah.
do it. And so then I thought, well, gee, what am I going to say to Meghan, that I'm only going to sell her half? And so when I finally broached the subject to her, she said, "Oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's so much better. Then I'd still have you around as a partner." So
So she felt like she was going to still have some support.
right, and
Yeah.
that she's still getting an ownership
Yeah.
interest, and she's really taking the next step.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. As of July 1, 2018, Meghan Guerin now owns 49% of Gordon Property Management. So, and I have the 51%. And when I first started talking about it with her, it was like, well, let's do it 50-50. And everybody I spoke to said don't. Hold on to 51. So that was another thing. I had to go back to her and say, I'm only going to sell you 49. She was like, oh, that's fine. So
Do you mind sharing a bit more for our listeners? Sort of,
Yeah.
what's the concept? What's the reasoning behind 51 versus 50?
Yeah.
well, if we disagree on something, I still have the say. I still have
Final
majority
say. Yeah.
control over what it all is. And that's one of the things. There are a number of things that you need to look at when you're putting together a deal like this, and one of them is, what do you do if you have a disagreement with your partner? So because I am 51% owner, if something were to happen, I could say, no, I outvote you. So I don't anticipate that happening, because I think part of a good and healthy partnership is you somehow have to agree. Okay, it's like a marriage in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. You can't say, well, I own 51% of this marriage, therefore
So
I'm
we're
right.
going to do it this
Right.
way.
So,
But it does
it's
give you that
different.
protection if something
And-
unthinkable happened.
right. So
Yeah.
So anyway, so I did hold on to 51%, and she got 49. So
Can you tell us more about the deal itself and how you got there?
yeah, so the deal was basically based on a multiple of the profit of the business. And a couple years ago, 4.5 did this, PM Grow did a retreat in Puerto Vallarta. It was a deep dive into your financial. And Alice Osenenko and Jordan Wela brought in Greg Crabtree, who's the author of a book called Simple Numbers. And Greg Crabtree, I think, spoke at PM Grow 1. He's a CPA out of Huntsville, Alabama, and his book is about how to look at your business, your financials, and understand them, and what do they mean, and when do you make your next hire, and so anyway, I got an invite to this mastermind group. And that's exactly where I was at, how do I really understand my financial statement? I mean, I run it on QuickBooks. I can see the different expenses. I can see the bottom line, but what does it all mean? Am I making any money on maintenance? By
Is
the
it
time
really as good as
by
I
the
think it
time you
is?
throw in everything else. So I went to that 3 or 4 day retreat, which was really, really fabulous. And before I went, we all had to send our QuickBooks files to Greg Crabtree's office. So he went through and analyzed them all. And then we each had an opportunity where we sat with him, and he really went over all of our financials, and everybody else. We all shared our financials. We all shared, what our income and expenses and our bottom line was. And it was interesting to see places where we all kind of had the same pattern, regardless of size and location and whatnot.
Good patterns?
Yeah, mostly
Yeah.
good patterns. I don't, and I think we all who were there had successful companies, because if you didn't have a successful company, you weren't going to pay the
That's
price
true.
to go.
Yeah,
So
makes
I think
sense.
that was a weeding
Yeah.
out factor as well. But yeah, it was a really, really fascinating weekend. And then I ended up hiring Greg to consult with me on getting my QuickBook accounts in line so that I could, for example, for my maintenance, I know what my maintenance revenue is. I know what the expenses are in terms of the supplies that we buy, but I never broke out the maintenance guy's salaries and tax share and what. I mean, I could see his overall salary, but I didn't
dig
break
deep
it.
in.
Right. It wasn't. It gave me a rough idea, but not an exact picture. So we set things up so that I could pull those numbers out into a report, and then sometime after that, Profit Coach came along, and I think that generated, because Danny Craig was there as well in Puerto Vallarta, and so Danny Craig and Jordan, I think, got together to do Profit Coach. So that, after I think I consulted with Greg Crabtree for maybe 6 months or something like that. But then when Profit Coach came along, and again, they have access to my QuickBooks file, and they're kind of massaging the numbers and putting reports with graphs. So each month I can see where we are, where's our marketing in terms of units added, and all kinds of, fascinating information. So that got off on a sidetrack. What were we talking about? Oh, the deal.
How it came about.
So with that information, we, Megan and I stayed over in San Diego after PM Grow 2, and I brought with her 3 or 4 years of financial information, then shared with her, because we had been talking conceptually about, how this would work, but this was the first time she actually saw the financial information. And I had a number in mind of what I wanted to sell based on profitability, and she had a number in mind basically just based on whatever she thought it would probably end up being, and it was basically the same number. So
that's great. It tells you how much she knows the business.
Right. And and we are just kind of on the same wavelength on a lot of things. So that was kind of the easy part. It's like, okay, here's the price. So then the other aspects of the deal, the other main aspect of the deal was I loaned her the money to buy her shares. And I gave her a 15-year loan. And if you were selling your business to somebody you didn't know or selling the whole thing, you would never do a 15-year term. But I wanted a 15-year term because, one, I wanted to spread the income out for my tax situation. And I wanted to make it easy for her to pay off this loan and still, really enjoy, the financial rewards of being a partner in the business.
You didn't want her to struggle.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted a 15-year employment agreement. So it's like, you get a 15-year loan, but I get a 15-year employment agreement, which basically, as long as I'm breathing, I get paid. I have no stated responsibilities. I'm doing a lot right now, but in 10 years, I expect to be doing a lot less. But that was my price, if you will, for doing that. So let's see, what was the other aspect of the deal? So one of the things when I was talking to Greg Crabtree, who did give me some advice on valuing my business and what to look for, one of the things he said was, you need to decide what happens after this deal. That the person who's going to buy the rest of my shares, or if it doesn't work, I'm the only one that's going to buy Meghan out, and Megan's the only one that's going to buy me out. And so that you have to decide how you're going to sell that business. So we basically, in our purchase agreement, there is what happens next, that, if I want to sell my shares, I have to offer them to her for sale at basically the same profit multiple that she's buying them now. Is how we did it. And same thing with her. If she wants to sell, she has to sell them for me. And we took it even a step further. What happens in the case of death or divorce? If Meghan dies, I like her husband a whole lot, but I don't want him as a business partner. So if something happens to her, her estate has to sell the shares to me. And if something happens to me, my estate has to sell them to her. Although
same price.
There's a clause in there that as long as the loan is still in effect, my heirs get to keep my shares.
Oh,
okay.
So until the loan's paid off, and she can pay it off, and it's a 15-year loan. She can pay it off in 10 if she wants, not less than 10, because I didn't want it coming in less than 10. So. And in the event of divorce, neither one of our spouses can end up with our shares. So my husband and her husband each had to sign something saying that they were not going to take shares. So that if Meghan and Julio got divorced, he would, in their divorce settlement, the value of those shares would come into play, but he would get that in some of their other assets. He wouldn't end up with 25% of Gordon Property Management.
Smart.
So it basically was the 4 Ds: divorce, disagreement, disability, and death. So in disability, we dealt with, for both of us, that's in the employment contract that you can't be disabled. You have to.
Almost like a property management agreement. You want to cover anything that you can cover.
We had 2 lawyers involved. I hired a lawyer who we, presented the deal to, and he wrote it up and gave different things to consider and some things that he thought we needed, maybe we didn't or didn't. And then she had a lawyer review it as well, who was representing her. And he came up with some other ideas, and, some of it wasn't really necessary. Like he wanted some guarantees by me or different things about revenue or whatnot, and Meghan was like, I've been here 15 years, I know the book of business, I don't need that from her.
How do you find the right lawyer to hire in this situation?
A friend referred the lawyer that I used to me, and then this other and then Meghan had a hard time finding someone to come in and kind of review the deal. But I had met a guy through a BNI group years ago who I thought was pretty sharp, and so we reached out to him. And in some ways I was kind of sorry I hadn't thought of him first to go to. But yeah, so between lawyers and accountants and, and I talked to different property management friends here and people who've done acquisitions and have done different things, and, I just got a lot of advice on what to do.
Smart.
Yeah, I have a question. And
Sure.
so there are a lot of ways to exit a company, right? So if you have kids, the most obvious thing is you want to pass off the business to your kids because you want to keep the legacy in the family. So just curious, why this route? Why exit?
Well, neither of my kids wanted it. So my oldest son was like, no way, Mom. I watched you do this my whole life, because I started my business working from home, and I was the one that ran out at night to show the apartment, and I got the phone call when the plumbing backed up, and so my kids lived with that. It was a great job as a mom, because it gave me a lot of flexibility. Yeah, I had to go show apartments at night, but I could go, on the field trip with the school or whatever. So, but my oldest son was like, are you crazy, Mom? No. And then my youngest kind of kept toying with the idea and going back and forth, and he's a school teacher and he got married, and I think the reality of the income of a school teacher, and so he came to me really right after Meghan and I kind of had this conversation and we're working out the deal. Said, I think maybe I do want to come work to Gordon Property Management. So he came last summer after he finished teaching for the school year, and he lasted about 4 months. It just was not for him.
Property management is hard.
He didn't like, we had him doing leasing, because I felt, if you're going to be part of this business, you really need to learn all aspects of it. And leasing seemed, a really clear choice of something that he could probably do and do well. And he did everything. I mean, he dealt with keys. He went and posted notices. He went and met the plumber. He, answered the phones.
Which, if he wants to take over the business, he needs to understand every aspect, all the ins and outs.
But if you're a leasing agent, you work weekends. And so he really didn't like having to work weekends. And he also really didn't like the commute in from Nevada, where he lives, into San Francisco, which was actually worse on the weekends than it was during the week.
I bet. Yeah.
Well,
actually, no, that is actually kind of surprising.
Yeah, no, it was much worse on the weekends, and particularly going home on a Saturday afternoon was just crazy. So
not worth it.
And I think he missed teaching, and it's something I'm really glad he did, because he'd kind of been toying with the idea, and so he did it. And then went back to teaching. It was funny because we had a conversation, and I was like, Jordan, you don't really seem very happy here. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, I just don't know if this is for me. And I was like, well, you don't need to stay here for me. we'll figure it out. You stay through Christmas, you can substitute teach, blah, 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 whatever. So he went home, and like 2 days later, the principal of his old school called and said, hey, Jordan, you want your old job back by any chance? So it just kind of
That's great.
worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he doesn't have to work weekends.
Now he doesn't have to work weekends.
And he gets summer off.
So,
Yeah, so I think a key insight here is a lot of people get so, I think, attached to the idea of handing off the business to their children so it stays in the family. But if it's not something your kids want, your family wants, like, don't really force it.
Don't force it, yeah.
Because if they're not passionate about it, if it's not their thing, they're not going to pay attention to it the same way you did.
right.
Versus Meghan, who's been with you since not day one, but like day
Right.
5
Right,
or
yeah.
something.
She was my second hire.
Yeah, right. So
Oh, wow.
she's
Okay.
been in
Yeah.
the business
Yeah.
since the beginning.
Yeah.
And she has
She's
a lot.
passionate about it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and she's excited to keep growing it the same way you are.
Right.
So I think that's really important.
And when my son came to me and said, I think I want to join the business, I was not going to stop this deal with Meghan. I mean, we have already
Yeah.
put it in work because by that point, I'm burned out. I want a break, and I can't turn it over to him. It would take him 10 years to
Yeah.
be in a
You
position
need her
to,
involved. You
Right.
need her.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Because at this point, so say he did come back a year from now and say, hey, Mom, I'm interested in doing it now. Would you, with your current deal, would you be able to hire him or sell your part of the business to him, or could he inherit it, or is that off limits?
well, we put in, because he was working at the time, we put in that I could sell my shares to my son as long as he had been working full-time in the business for 3 years.
That's good.
And we put the same, provision in for Meghan, that if she wants to sell if either of her daughters, who are still in middle school, so that could be
Oh,
a
wow.
while.
Yeah.
but it was reciprocal. If I'm going to put this in for my son, I'll put it in for your son. By the time her daughters are old enough to buy in, I'm sure I'll be long gone. So
he, even though he doesn't want to, there's not that. And you mentioned this when we talked earlier a little bit, the resent factor. He's not going to, or regret not trying it.
Right.
And then if he changes his mind, he can talk to you and
Yeah.
see what options there are.
yeah.
At least the door is not closed. But it's interesting because you stipulated in the agreement that he needs to at least have been in the business for 3 years. So you want to make sure he's not just dipping in for the
Right.
Yeah.
money. Like, he needs to actually earn his way.
Well,
kind of,
because
or-
if he's going to be a partner in the business, if it were me, I wouldn't want my partner's child owning something and not working there. I mean, because this again gets back to, when you sell a portion of your business, if you sell a portion of anything, it reduces the overall value. I mean, if you have something that's valued at $100 and then you try to sell 50 of it, you're not going to get, if you try and sell half of it, you're not going to get $50 for half of something that's when the whole thing is worth that much. So, and if you only own half of something, you've got a partner, who else is going to buy the other half? So, in terms of making Meghan feel comfortable that, she's not going to end up with my son as a partner if he's not even involved in the business.
That's very smart to include that there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, how did you know it was Meghan? Like, because you said you've been talking on and off with her about you eventually selling the company to her, but why her? Just curious. I mean, she's been like your longest.
Yeah, she's been here for a long time, and she's really capable, and she's been running day-to-day operations for a long time. I don't know if I would have been as successful as I am without her, because, I mean, having somebody there that long, because we've had clients that long.
Yeah.
It's
invaluable for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
What jobs has she had in the company?
She started answering the phones. So, because back in I had one gal that worked for me, kind of part-time, back when I was still working out of my house. She would come like late afternoon, early evening, and just enter bills and whatnot at my computer. And then it was like, well, I need my computer. And so I eventually got another office somewhere and had this other person. And then Meghan was the second hire. And when you're 3, everybody does a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. So And then the other gal left, and as we grew, Megan's position went.
She
up.
changed, she progressed, she
Right.
learned.
Right.
And
But
she
she's
started
done
to-
every job here as well. So.
So she really, she doesn't just understand your business, she understands property management.
Right.
Inside and out.
Right.
She's worked
Right.
all the roles.
Right. And Megan's smart. I mean, she's got her California broker's license, which I know a lot of people who had to take that test a lot of times before they passed, and Megan passed first.
The
go
first
round.
try?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And before that, she was in the insurance industry, so she had her Series 7 license. And she's just she's organized, she's calm, she's actually really good at sales and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
She's really friendly. I kind of got to the point where all of my emails were, as many words as it needed to be and no more. But
Yeah.
she's always, embroiders them a little bit, makes them a little
She's
more flowery.
articulate, yeah.
Yeah, she's a little more patient. And so.
It's a good quality to have.
Yeah.
I like short and concise, and I like
Yeah.
articulate.
Depends on the situation.
Good
Right.
balance. Yeah, it
Right.
does depend on the situation for sure.
Yeah.
But it's a good balance.
Yeah, definitely. So how did you know she was ready?
I was ready. No, she was ready. She had been running the day-to-day operations for probably at least 3 years. And,
okay, that's a lot.
and the last couple of years, I was only in the office 3 days a week. And then I was in Sonoma, for 2 days and the weekends. So she was really running day-to-day operation. And I was really just at that point. I was, I did a lot, had always done a lot of meeting prospective clients. And so I was still doing that, but not much else in terms of operations. And a few other tasks, ended up back on my desk. I would
Yeah.
hire someone and, give them this, and then they would go, and then it would come back to me. And so, I did still have a few other responsibilities. And, 100 emails a day or whatever.
What do your responsibilities look like
Now.
now? Almost a year after.
Not
Almost.
quite a year after. So it's taken a while to kind of figure all of that out. And I did go through a little moment of, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Who am I? I'm Gordon Property
Yeah.
Management. This is my baby, and now
What's
I'm
my
not
purpose
doing
in
this.
life?
What's my purpose in life?
Yeah.
So now I'm the cliche, I'm working on my business, not in my business, but it is true, because I'm not here and I'm not dealing with the day-to-day. I'm able to do things that I was never able to do. I mean, I just finished rewriting my property management agreement. I've been meaning to do that for a year and a half. And so, that finally kind of got done. We're tweaking it a little bit. We haven't launched it yet.
Like you have it. You have the draft. And
Right.
you're-
Right, and the changes that I want to
80%
make
there,
and whatnot.
yeah.
So, we're working on other projects. We're going to start implementing EOS.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited
Who are
about
you
that.
working with?
Andy Moore.
Andy Moore, yeah.
Andy Moore. So,
Shout out to Andy.
shout out to Andy Moore. Well, I had talked to Andy a little bit about this at the NARPM National in San Diego last October. And then, just whatever, life got in the way. And I heard that he was speaking at the PM Grove that we just had in Austin about EOS. And so I emailed him beforehand and said, hey, Andy, I want to talk to you about hiring you to implement EOS. And so we did meet and have a conversation there. And as soon as he got home from PM Grove, his phone rang off the hook. So it's like, I'm first in line.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
So, yeah, I admire Andy Moore. I think he's a smart guy. I think he's doing some really interesting things. And, he kind of fell into this, and he's doing it because it's interesting to him and he likes it. And so.
And it helps people.
And I thought for me, because you can implement ESO and it doesn't have to be a property manager, but I thought for us to have someone who's got an insight in our business to come in would be helpful, because we are at a kind of a transitionary stage right now where we're trying to figure out how do we organize without me, because Meghan hasn't replaced herself. We need another hire, but who is that hire? Who are people here? What are their strengths? If we, where do we go? So I think having Andy kind of help us with that process and having the insight into the property management world, I think will be really helpful for both of us.
And kind of set the framework.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so I'm doing things like that. I'm doing things that are more long-term. I'm not in the office. I don't have a desk in the office. I don't come in.
That's why your direct line doesn't work anymore.
That's right. Well, could you leave a message? You're supposed to be able to leave a message.
I did, because I just figured I could just call the receptionist and tell the receptionist to tell you that. Yeah.
Well, I have a soft phone, so if you
Okay.
call my direct line, it just goes to voicemail.
Yeah.
But I will get the message.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So, but yeah, I don't come into the office anymore, and it's good because and I'm excited about what I'm doing. I'm no longer burned out. I'm no longer not caring about things, and I see taking my company to the next level. So there's lots to do. There's lots of places to go. It's a dynamic business, and it's changing. You guys know this. I mean, the technology that's coming in, the venture capital that's coming in to our industry, the guy who was a speaker, that last speaker at PM Grow, talking about the amount of dollars that are going into software and technology for the property management industry is amazing. I mean, the way we do things today will probably be very different in 10 years because of technology.
Yeah.
Very true.
I mean, one of the things we just did, we hired the company Latchel, which does maintenance coordination. And it's not just human beings communicating back and forth with vendors and the tenants. It's a technology. It's got a human element to it, but it's got some technology to it.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some hiccups along the way. It wasn't Latchel, but somebody else was telling me a similar company, and I forget which one it was. The technology, the heater went out, and so they sent someone to repair the water heater and not the heater, so those kinds of things that will take
get
some
better
while.
over time and
to work out.
but the things that do work out probably get taken care of a little
Right.
bit quicker, make tenants happier.
Right.
Owners can probably see what's happening at their property
Right.
through
All of
everything.
that is all done through some kind of software program that they do that I certainly would never understand. So and a lot of people are able to add those kinds of services at an affordable price by using remote assistance and remote team members, which is certainly one way to do it. But there's all this other tech stuff coming out. So
your role is almost like your job is almost kind of being an outsider now, looking in and
Improving
saying what
things.
tools, what resources can we use to make the business better, to make Megan's life easier,
Make everything more efficient.
Yeah.
Right.
Make the owners and tenants more happy.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I, the other thing I'm doing is I joined a mastermind group. Steve Welty and Jordan Wella started the Tribe Mastermind Group. So that's fun and interesting, and there's interesting property managers who are doing really neat, cool stuff that and so being a part of that is really exciting for me.
I think that's very important. A lot of owners of property management companies who are still in the day-to-day, they don't have the time and headspace to then go out and network and hear what other property managers in other areas are doing, creative things that you would never think of. And sometimes these things don't work in your market, but as you're listening to them talking about these creative things, you just have an aha moment, you know what, I won't do that, but this other idea just popped in my head.
Right. Or if you don't do it now, you can see how maybe down the line something like that integrates. But it's really hard when you are managing the day-to-day business to implement anything new. We're just putting out fires,
Yes.
And I mean, I've been going to NARPM conferences for years, and I have all these great ideas, and you come back, and after being gone for a week, by the time you catch up, you're like, what was that idea?
Yeah.
What was I going to do? So.
And then once you start thinking about it, there's another fire.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so I'm actually having fun.
That's great. And so Stephanie, how did you like break the news to the team that, hey guys, I'm gonna sell part of the company to Meghan?
I think we just announced it at a lunch. Once a month we have a lunch meeting. You know, we have kind of other meetings, but once a month is a lunch meeting, and I think we just announced it there. And I don't think anybody, I mean, maybe they were surprised, but they'd been reporting to Meghan for quite some time. So it wasn't any big deal.
Well,
I don't think. If it was, I haven't heard about it. So,
but they since you and Meghan had been talking about it for so long.
We hadn't talked about it openly.
Oh, not openly.
Okay.
No, we had been talking about.
It was just like a little bit here and there,
right?
Kind of,
right.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about different things, and we also for a while since we were talking about that. I mean, we really on any decisions that we were making, or any strategies, or any of this or that. I mean, we consulted as if we were partners, even though we weren't. So
that's a good setup.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, and for me, having somebody else to talk about things with, what do you think? Well, I don't know, or this. I mean, you know, she's got good ideas and good advice, so we really do make a team. We really do complement each other. So.
That's great. So was there any kind of announcement to your owner clients of this change, or is it just business as usual?
No, so the best thing I ever did is I took a 4-month sabbatical when I left. And I wasn't sure, how am I going to tell my clients? What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? And I came up with this idea. I'll just tell them I'm going on sabbatical, because everybody understands a sabbatical. It means you go away and you come back. So I composed a really nice email. I spent a lot of time on it, you know, that I emailed to all my clients saying, you know, I've sold Meghan, you know, half of the business. You know, and as far as everybody else is concerned, it's half the business. Yeah. Technically, there's that 1%. But
yeah.
And by the way, I'm going to take a 4-month sabbatical. And I made it very personal. Years ago, I got an email from somebody. It was an out of office, but instead of saying I'm out of the office, blah blah blah, I'm out of the office. I'm, you know, on a beach somewhere with my family, and I won't be checked. And it really hit me. That's exactly what I did. So since then, every time I do an out of office email when I went on vacation, I always said where I was going or what I was doing. So I did this whole email about, you know, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go spend time in my garden in Sonoma. I'm going to visit my new granddaughter in Virginia.
Personalized it.
Yeah, we're going to go travel in Italy, and then I'll be back and, you know, be back around refreshed. And I got the nicest emails from a lot of clients. It was really touching what the response I got. But what that did was that got me out of the day-to-day. So by the time I came back from my sabbatical, I'm no longer on the email chains. They're no longer calling me. I'm just, you know, my emails are all junk basically at this point. So
they got used to it though.
They got used to it.
Yeah.
They got used to it. So
did you come up with that on your own, or was that advice from someone else?
No, I just thought of it because I was struggling. How am I going to say this that won't freak them out? How do I say?
I sold the company. See you later.
I sold the company. I'm stepping out of day to day. Don't ever email me again.
It's gonna be fine though. Right. Don't worry about it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And it shows them that you really care, that the fact that you took the time to write a personal message and explain your story and be very transparent, because that is exactly what you did.
Well, I had to, because I was still getting phone calls and emails, and I mean, I couldn't just, you know,
disappear.
Well, and people don't want to bother you then either. They're like, okay, she's taking a break.
She's in
Give her her time.
She's with her granddaughter. Don't call her.
Yeah.
Right. So. So that worked out really well, because I just really haven't been drawn back into the day-to-day. You know, and everybody here got used to me being gone as well. And even though I was only in the office 3 days a week, I mean, that was still a presence. So.
That's good.
So, yeah.
What advice do you have? And obviously this whole thing is advice.
Yeah.
But what advice do you have for somebody that's looking to exit, trying to figure out how
which method to go
choose
with? Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't think you can sell half of your business to someone that you don't know and trust. So if you have someone in your organization that you can work with and they can do this deal, then I think you've got something. But but it's, you know, and it's not for everybody either. I mean, there's some people who just don't let go of control, and so you would never. I mean, you know, it just has to be the right circumstances. But I do think, you know, because I know we've been talking in this industry, you know, how do you give your employees a path of where to go? And you've got the, you know, EOS and your cubes and your team and your senior property manager, assistants, whatnot. You've got, you know, your quads, I guess is what they call them, so that people can see a path up. If you've got a shining star in your organization, you know, this is a great way to say, hey, there is a future for you here.
That's wonderful. And then once you identify a shining star, you don't just talk to them, you make sure that they have what they need to keep learning, keep growing.
Right.
Up to the point where they're like Meghan. They're like...
Right. So she, you know, I mean, a lot of the decisions that we made, you know, at least a year before we were doing this, if not 2 years, she was part of that decision-making process. Certainly anybody hiring, you know, and
you gave time. Time is a good gift to give.
Yeah. And so, to anyone who's thinking of doing this same type of exit, you know, passing off the business to a team member, either partially or fully, how much of a runway do you advise they have from the time they make a decision to the time they like divest or like take a sabbatical?
Well, it was a good year plus for me. And part of that was I had some financial goals that I wanted to reach before I did this. And I also had a place in mind where I wanted to bring my business that I didn't feel it was really quite ready for me to walk away with, and working on different things. So for me, it was a little over a year. You know, maybe a year and a half is what it took. But even before then, you know, having the work that I did financially and understanding the financials, I mean, I think that was really very important, and that took quite some time. I think I've been working on that for a while.
Yeah, and you had outside help, right?
Right. Oh, outside help. For everything I do, I get outside help.
Well, that's really good because, as you said, I mean, some people, it's hard for them to like delegate certain things, and so if accounting is like your thing, then maybe you don't delegate that, but look for other things that you're not as good at and delegate those. Like for you, it seems like you value the fact that there are experts out there who just know that one thing, and then you like seek them.
Well, and that, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I've been successful. I mean, you know, hiring 4.5 to do marketing for me. I mean, you know, I hadn't done marketing ever. It was all referral and word of mouth. And so, you know, and then working with, you know, Profit Coach, looking at the numbers. I mean, I'm not a financial analyst. I'm not an accountant.
Right.
You know, I mean, I can look at the checkbook and see that there's money there, but, you know, really pinpointing where it came from and didn't come from. And I think I talked a little bit about looking at, is maintenance profitable? I mean, that was something I could never quite figure out. And so we really got into those numbers, and it was like, okay, well, we need to make some changes in how we charge, how we bill for maintenance, because it's not profitable. It's breaking even, but it
can be profitable.
It can be profitable. Yeah. So, and you know, and now implementing EOS, we're hiring Andy Moore. Meghan wanted to do it. She said, we can do this, and I'm like, no. And it was with the tribe group that was talking about the tribe mastermind group talking about implementing, and every single person in the room said, hire an implementer, hire an implementer.
Don't do it yourself.
Don't do it yourself.
Well, it is like a full-time job.
It is a full-time job.
We're doing EOS, and our COO Michael comes from a project management background, and he's been able to help us implement it, but we've had a lot of help, and it takes a lot of time.
Right.
It is a job
to make sure that you are hitting the deadlines, to make sure that you are keeping with the meetings that have to happen every single week, and you're
make sure you don't fall back into old habits, because that's easy too, especially when you're we could talk
Right.
about EOS. I guess that's a whole
Separate
Other-
podcast.
yeah. We'll have
Yeah.
to bring you back once
Yeah.
you've
once you're-
implemented it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once everything's done, and we can talk about
Okay.
that, because a lot of people are doing it, and I think it's great.
For us, it just seemed like the right thing at the right time, because we're really struggling. Who is our next hire? And how do we organize things? Are we growing our maintenance division, or are we continuing to outsource a lot of it? Are we going to do this, or are we going to do that? And so to kind of set up a structure of how we're going to work, and so that when we hire our next hire, we do have more of a solid job description and KPIs and some of these things, as well as for my current employees. I mean, to be honest, everybody's kind of done a little bit of everything, and that's, I've always kind of hired from the bottom up. You start out answering the phones, you move up, and so you do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and everybody has their hands in things, and it's worked fine up until this point. But we're now getting to the point of if we're going to grow anymore, we need more of a structure.
Yeah.
And actually, with this transition, we just put growth on the back burner.
Yeah.
It was just like, the phone's still ringing. I haven't done any new videos or whatnot in a long, long time, but we do still get calls, but we're being really, really picky about the properties that we're taking on right now.
So you're setting yourself up for growth in the future,
Right.
so that
Right.
once you are ready to do that,
Everything's settled.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Because we just couldn't handle anymore. But between, me stepping away, Meghan not replacing herself, we had a horrible winter. I mean, as you know, it rained like every day for
Yeah.
3 months, and I think half of our buildings had leaks.
old buildings,
Old buildings,
Yeah.
whether it was the roof or the siding or the window or the this or the that. And, and maintenance really is a struggle for us here. We have a skilled labor shortage in San Francisco. And, part of it is it's so expensive to live here. And
everybody's coming here for tech, but nobody's coming here.
well, and then all the
'Cause you
tech.
can't afford to live here.
Oh yeah,
Well, but those that
or you
can
commute from 2 hours away, like Novato.
And the techies that can afford to live here, they're putting in $1 million kitchens. So they're, what would you rather do? Go fix one of my little apartments, or go work on $1 million kitchen?
Yeah.
I actually had a window guy who I've been working with for years. He lost 2 of his employees to a general contractor doing high-end remodels, and you just can't replace them. So
Wow.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah, like going back to, how Meghan is not yet like replaced, right? So she basically replaced you, but no one has replaced her. And with implementing EOS, you guys are hoping to find the perfect person to replace her, or a clone of her.
well, to identify who that person,
should be.
should be.
Because it might be a different role than what her role is now, even.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And, it's going to be in the maintenance world, because that is our pain point.
Yeah.
And that is where we could collect rent all day long. That's easy. It's the maintenance.
So Latcha will help with that, and then a person.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. And do we hire more maintenance techs? Do we outsource more? What exactly should we be doing? And how does that work? So yeah.
Yeah, this is all really good information. What I got from what you said just now was, you understand that the transition in itself is a big project, and you can't really half-ass it, or
Yeah.
you can't really just do a mediocre job at it, because that's the foundation of
You
the
can't
business.
set it and forget it.
No.
You have.
So, which means you made a conscious decision to put growth in the back burner
Right.
while you focus on the foundation, which is the people that
Right.
actually make it work.
Right.
So I thought that was a really good piece of advice for anyone
Yeah.
looking to exit.
Yeah, well, and we have talked to a couple people recently who purchased property management companies that they didn't have any transition. They just bought the company. The owner was supposed to stay in transition, and they left. They had to figure it out, learn along the way. It sounds like in your instance, you just knew you didn't want to do that, and you wanted to make sure that the company was still taken care of, even though you trust Meghan and know what's going on.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't ready to completely walk away. I'm not ready for the rocking chair.
Yeah.
I got
You're ready for sabbatical, so it's about time to take another one.
Yeah.
Bring Marie and I with you.
Right. So, well, and that's what I get to do. I get to travel. I get to, I'm going to take a 3-week trip in June and I want to travel. I got a grandbaby on the other side of the country that I got to go see.
Well, this has been really insightful, and it's always fun talking to you, Stephanie. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This has been fun. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will get so much out of this just knowing that there are options.
It's just a different option.
Yeah.
It's just because really you sell your business, a family member takes over, or sell half.
You live forever or sell half.
Sell 25%.
Yeah.
And if I thought about it, maybe I should have done that a few years ago. Sold her a smaller portion back then, or something like that, and then build up. So, but
yeah. So to all of our listeners, think about that. We're definitely bringing you back on the show again to talk about EOS. I know you talked about it a second ago.
Give me a year.
Yeah.
Give me a year.
Okay. A year. Yeah. Actually, a year does sound good.
I think we would need because I've been told. You really, it's a good 18-month process, and you've really got to give it a good 6 months before you're either all in or all out.
Yeah, that sounds good. We can do that.
We'll put that on the calendar.
Yeah, we'll put it on the calendar today. So you're committed. Have you on audio and video. So, thank you for everybody listening. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let us know any topics you want to hear, any people you think we should interview. We'd love to do that for you.